back here with another video. And in this video today, we're going to be reacting to ESPN NBA 2K5 was a masterpiece by Soft Drink TV. Now, 2K5 got to be one of my personal favorite games, especially NBA-wise. I think it was revolutionary, the first 2K game that I actually played. Ben Wallace on the cover at the time. I don't know if I like the Pistons because of Ben Wallace or because of 2K, but Pistons were my favorite team back in 2005. So interested to watch this video and give my thoughts on 2K5 as a whole.
Yeah. NBA 2K5.
Man, this was elite. Ben Wallace on the cover.
In 2004, 2K released
I don't even remember College Hoops 2K5. I played NFL and I played NBA though.
all of their sports games for $20. And while that might make these titles appear to be cheaper, lesser quality competitors to the
$20
other
is
sports
crazy.
games on the market at the time, that actually wasn't true at all. Their business model was to take over the entire industry.
And they
by
did.
releasing arguably the best sports games ever made at a cheaper price point than anyone else. With ESPN NFL 2K5, that game was arguably even better than Madden 05 from EA.
I think
And
it
at less
was.
than half
I think 2K5 football was better.
the price, it sold extremely well, causing EA and the NFL to sign an exclusive rights agreement, keeping 2K from making any more NFL licensed games. But for NBA games, ESPN NBA 2K5's $20 price tag made NBA Live 05, a great game in its own right and arguably the peak of NBA Live, a less obvious purchase. For the longest time, NBA Live was the king of basketball video games.
It was, and now it's not anymore. 2K took over.
As their games were filled with features and the gameplay was easy to pick up and play. When 2K joined the competition on the Sega Dreamcast, their NBA games had a different approach. They focused on realism, lifelike graphics, and simulation-style gameplay. And while they had more of a learning curve, 2K's NBA titles were slowly gaining on EA's live series. The $20 price point for NBA 2K5 was the catalyst that jump-started 2K.
And people gotta realize, like, the $20 price point, that helps out so much as far as sales and getting casuals in the door.
Trajectory towards leading the market. By July of 2006, ESPN NBA 2K5 had sold over 1 million copies,
Nuts.
closing in on Live 05's 1.6 million. Within a few years, 2K would surpass EA as the leading NBA video game developer, and they could thank the incredible ESPN NBA 2K5 for leading them there.
It's the first 2K game I remember
It
playing.
was the first time NBA 2K became truly mainstream, and ESPN NBA 2K5 is today considered to be one of the greatest sports
As it
video
should.
games ever made.
As it should.
In the early 2000s, the NBA 2K series was rapidly gaining traction as the go-to basketball game for hardcore fans of the sport. But in 2003, the release of NBA 2K4, which was also known as ESPN NBA Basketball,
See, I didn't play that.
left many fans feeling disappointed. While the game got good reviews, the gameplay felt faster and less realistic, and the AI was a bit worse than previous iterations. It seemed like the series was taking a step backwards to be more like NBA Live. Thankfully, 2K listened to the fans' feedback and went back to their
2K listened to the fans' feedback? They'd never do that now, ever.
roots for the release of ESPN NBA 2K5. The simulation-style gameplay was back in full force, and the game offered an absolutely absurd amount of depth in its game modes. The return to sim-style gameplay started with improvements in the post-play system. Players were now offered a range of viable options such as backing down a defender, spinning around them, jump hooks, and drop steps. These moves could be combined and made for better user control near the
What am I watching right now? This looks so unrealistic.
basket. Unlike in 2K4 or in NBA Live, you couldn't simply run to the basket and dunk. You had to use proper moves, motions, screens, and plays to get open shots, as the AI defense was actually very challenging. The game also slowed down, and player movement had more momentum to it, making it more difficult to turn on a dime or run around a defender. Rebounding was also improved, now showing a spot on the floor where the ball would land if a shot was missed, allowing you to time your jump for a rebound in just the right spot. The
What? Why are you able to see where the rebound is going?
ISO motion juke system was tweaked to allow for more options, such as spin moves, step backs, and more to get an open jumper. The game uses a lot of nice looking motion captured animations, and for its time, this was one of the best looking sports games ever made.
I mean, I guess.
Players even got progressively more sweaty throughout the game, and this released on the PlayStation 2. Each team received offensive and defensive playbooks.
The pause menu, man. I love that. That'll go down in histories, man.
And
That
you could
pause
set
menu was
specific
it.
plays to the D-pad. The AI in 2K5 was a huge improvement from 2K4, so running plays worked well as your teammates would get set in the right positions. On defense, the different sets and traps allowed for even more strategy. The only real downside to the gameplay was the free throw system, which I found frustrating. It is possible to turn on free throw help, which will make the AI shoot them for you based on the player's ratings, and I highly recommend turning this on. But the
Why do I not remember this is how you shoot free throws?
original mechanic is difficult, requiring you to hold each trigger perfectly in place, not all the way down, completely still, while also trying to time a fast-moving ball in the middle of the meter. Actually doing this makes me want to throw my controller at the wall, but luckily, as I mentioned, you can turn this off. Despite this minor...
Bro, why did they make it so hard? What in the world?
ESPN NBA 2K5 overall had arguably the greatest simulation basketball gameplay ever seen in a video game at that point in time.
Just chucking up anything.
But arguably, the best part of ESPN NBA 2K5 was its insane level of depth within its game modes. The game's 24/7 mode was a precursor to My Career, allowing players to create a player with super in-depth options and play special games against NBA players on cool courts across the country. These games had rules such as no jump shots allowed that you had to follow, adding a unique challenge to playing the CPU. You had to play this mode every single day to maximize upgrades for your player, hence the name 24/7.
I literally don't even remember this mode.
It's a really unique take
And it was still a good game.
on a career mode. But the greatest highlight of ESPN NBA 2K5
Fantasy.
was its franchise mode,
that's
called
what I meant.
Association mode.
This is all I did on the mode. All I did, man. This is it. Draft a team, sim, go from there.
It featured a ton of setup options, such as how many games each season should have, the playoff
Yeah,
format,
this is
fantasy
all I
draft,
did.
and even the ability to import draft classes from the 2K College Hoops games. The presentation within the mode is great, putting you at the coach's desk. Sometimes the backdrop is the ESPN studio, and there's news showing important updates from around the league. And something that's really cool is player personality. Your players all have different personality types, and they will actually reach out to you, asking you questions, and it'll show your player react visually to whatever you say. They might ask for more playing time, and you'll have a few response options, which can result in a rise or drop in team chemistry. This
Big changes needed is what I would reply.
is something you might see in
Wanna
newer
complain
sports
about
video game
playing
franchise
time.
modes, but for 2004, this was crazy in depth.
That's what I'm
Even
saying.
NFL 2K5 didn't have anything like that. Weekly training allowed you to hire staff members, such as a masseuse or a shot coach, or even an NBA legend.
A
and you had
masseuse
limited
is
number of spots, so you had to
crazy.
choose carefully. And then you could assign different types of practices, choose the intensity for more development but more injury risk and vice versa.
I remember this.
And then see the results of practice. In an era where every other NBA game's franchise mode was essentially just playing games on a schedule, the depth here is actually insane, and I'm not even done yet. And remember, this game dropped for $20.
And this is all I played on the game was this franchise mode right here.
Instead
That's all
of
I
simply
played.
playing or simulating your team's games, you could try full authority mode. You choose which players you want to shoot, how many shots they should get, where they should defend, and then the game will instantly show you highlights from the simulation following your exact parameters.
I don't even remember this
It's kind
either.
of like a turn-based coach mode, which is super unique. I don't think I've seen anything like this in a major sports game before. Even when simulating games, teams would offer trades, adding yet another
So
layer of
far
depth
ahead
to
of
this
its
mode.
time.
The amount of things to do besides playing games is what makes Association Mode in 2K5 so great. It's clear how this would eventually become My League or My NBA, the deepest franchise mode in any modern...
This was revolutionary. And and this is my thing is it's like gameplay does matter, but this stuff matters more, in my opinion, to make it a great
sports
game.
at this point in time. When the season ended, the game showed player awards by putting them on the cover of ESPN the magazine. During the offseason, you could view league retirements, hire and sign coaches and scouts, re-sign players, and scout rookies. The rookie scouting feature allowed you to spend a budget on scouting, with each scouted player receiving an in-depth scouting report showing their NBA
Just
pro
ridiculous.
comparison, strengths, weaknesses, and more. There was even a mock draft and legit presentation for the NBA draft, which put you in the draft room. In retrospect, it's fascinating to see how close 2K5 was to modern 2K's MyNBA mode.
Literally, this in 2004 is crazy.
ESPN NBA
You realize what was going on in 2004? We were on flip phones.
2K5, a game from 2004, had a better, deeper franchise mode than almost every major non-2K sports game out right now. This was 2K Sports trying their absolute hardest to compete and win over the hardcore sim basketball fan.
And they did,
it's safe to
me
say they
included.
succeeded. While NBA Live 2005 was a great game, its franchise mode didn't hold a candle to ESPN NBA 2K5's association mode. An in-depth 280-page reference guide, which was accessible in-game, was way better and more detailed than it had any
282 pages. That's like that's like somebody sending you the TOS of something and say, "Do you agree?" Yeah, I agree. I'm not reading 282 pages, man. I'm not doing it.
Additionally, there were training videos that explained how to master the game's controls, which is a nice touch for those looking to play this for the first time today, as the controls are a bit different from more modern NBA titles. The street mode is similar to the blacktop
You could play
mode
at
found
Rucker
in modern
Park.
NBA 2K games, but it's 100 times better. There are 12 different
Egypt?
themed courts to choose from, compared to just one blacktop court in 2K23. This makes it the perfect mode
Yo,
for local
what?
player with friends. You
Nah,
can even choose
this is
weather
crazy.
options, which can lead to some hilarious moments, like Dirk Nowitzki popping off in Egypt in the rain. A moment that me and one of my friends now affectionately refer to as Egypt Dirk. One of the best parts of the street mode is the incredible attention to detail. There are a ton of different courts, including real-life ones like Rucker Park. Why blacktop mode is no longer this cool in modern 2Ks is a good question.
This is insane. Imagine if they did this now.
There's also practice mode, just like in modern 2Ks where you pick a player and practice his release. But what I found interesting about it
Excellent
was just
release.
how good the practice court looked graphically. On the PlayStation 2, the court was actually shiny and reflective, as you can see here. In every game mode, the level of gameplay customization is unparalleled. You had complete control over the sliders and game
Over
rules,
everything.
making it an NBA sandbox of sorts. Again, for 2004, no other sports game came close. The game's soundtrack was varied and
It's crazy that I remember this game being so good, but I don't remember like the specific details of why it was so good either. And this is fantastic.
fire, with a ton of old school hip hop and original ESPN theme music. It might just be my favorite soundtrack in any sports game ever. When setting up a game in exhibition mode, you get a surprising number of retro jersey options for most teams, and you can even do a fantasy draft for just one specific game, or have the game randomly scramble a mix of players together.
Come
for you.
on, man. Come on, man. This game is way ahead of its time. Come on, man.
It's like an NFL 2K5. In terms of presentation, the pregame show starts with the late, great Stuart Scott giving insight about a player, and then players warm up in their actual warm-up outfits and talk to the coach. It's a great pregame presentation from an era where most NBA games went straight to tip-off. During the game, players will stare down others after hitting a tough shot. The crowd goes wild during key moments. Michelle Tafoya gives sideline analysis, and the halftime show features Bill Walton and shows still images
Rest
on
in
the
peace,
PS2
Bill
or
Walton, man.
highlights on the Xbox of the game with stats and commentary. Another awesome touch and similar to ESPN NFL 2K5. This game was the fully
ESPN
realized
2K5
version
was
of ESPN
fantastic too, though.
presentation in an NBA
Both of
game,
them were
and
fantastic.
it helped keep you immersed by making every game feel special. And of course, the rosters from this era featured some of the most iconic teams and players from NBA history, making this game feel like a basketball time machine, taking you back to a golden era. The Los Angeles Lakers had Kobe in his prime, Shaq had just joined the Miami Heat to team up with a young D-Wade. Cover athlete Ben Wallace had just won a chip against
But I think it was more about what 2K did than what was going on in the NBA.
Kobe and Shaq with the bad boy
Genuinely.
Pistons. LeBron James was a rising young superstar. The Spurs core of Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Ginobili was in its prime. And then you had players like Allen Iverson, Tracy McGrady, and Kevin Garnett at the top of their games. So many future Hall of Fame players were featured in this game in their prime, and replaying it today transports you back to the 04-05 season, one of the best eras in NBA.
It was, for sure.
ESPN NBA 2K5 was a game that pushed the boundaries of what a basketball game could be, and it set a standard that many games have since tried to replicate. The attention to detail, the presentation, the depth of the game modes,
I'm stunned at how good the franchise mode was. Seriously, it was unbelievable.
and the $19.99 price point. All combined to make NBA 2K5
$20 for the best
a
basketball game in the
legendary
world.
sports
Ridiculous.
It's been almost 2 decades since this game was released, and while there have been many great basketball games released since then, ESPN NBA 2K5 still holds up as one of the best.
I think for its time is the best, personally.
And with modern 2K titles catering more and more towards monetized online game modes,
Microtransactions.
it's refreshing
It's all
to
it
go
is.
back and play a game that was 100% focused on winning your purchase by delivering an authentic, deep,
A good
simulation
game
NBA
without spending
experience
extra
for less
money.
than its competitors. This game was the result of a fiercely competitive market, and it set up 2K's future domination of the NBA video game market.
Because they actually
NBA
produced a
2K5
good game.
was a masterpiece, and it's a video game every basketball fan should experience. Thanks for watching.
2K5, my favorite 2K of all time, easily. Wish we could go back to times like this. It's gonna wrap it up. Drop a like on the video, subscribe if you're new, and as always, man, I love you guys. Have a blessed day.